is enough said.
Happy Taco Tuesday, Heat Nation. Your boy Ernest here. Back with another Miami Heat Talk video. Guys, before we get started, you know what I'm going to ask, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. We pushing to 6,000 subscribers. Now, please join me as we go on another Miami Heat Talk adventure. Before we get to today's subject, you guys, I have to talk about the game last night. Heat lose again. I mean, at this point, are we surprised? Miami Heat lose to the New York Knicks 116-95. Get blown out. This is the Miami Heat's 8th straight loss, which is a record for the Miami Heat. 8 straight losses, which is pretty pathetic, if you want me to be honest, especially with this team that we've had. The Heat have had some stinkers in the past. You know, the last team that was really, really bad was the 2008 season, where we went 15-67. And this season just feels worse. I don't know why. It just does. Because that year, in 2008, when we were so bad, at least you were losing for something. The Heat ended up getting the second pick. Now, they blew it with Michael Beasley, but it was still something to look forward to. Now, this season, you lose 8 straight games. You have a record of 29-39, but you are hovering under mediocrity. The Heat are still a play-in team. Even with the loss last night, even with losing 8 straight games, even with going 1-9 our last 10 games, the Heat are a 10th seed in the Eastern Conference, which is batshit crazy because before the Jimmy Butler trade, we were out of the play-in. We were a 6th seed. So it shows you what that trade did for Miami. The Heat have gone 4-15 since the Jimmy Butler trade, while Golden State has, I believe, gone 14-3, 15-2, something like that. So huge difference. You saw what Jimmy Butler brought, but I will continue to say this. Jimmy Butler's playing that way with Golden State because he was revived with that contract. He didn't want to give the contract because they didn't want to pay Jimmy on the back end. So it is what it is, you guys. It's all about perspective. Hindsight's 20/20, of course, so maybe trading Jimmy Butler was a bad idea, but we gave ourselves flexibility. Now, last night was the same old story we've had all season long. The Heat have a double-digit lead in the first half, blow it in the second half. They're outscored 41-15 in the third quarter. Jesus, that's insane. And the Heat blow it again. Now, if you're trying to look at this with a glass half full perspective, with that loss, the Heat go lower in the standings, drop under Chicago, which is getting them in that under top 10 protection for the lottery coming up. But as I've mentioned before, if the Heat don't make the playoffs this year, yes, they keep their 2025 draft pick. Yes, they also get Golden State's 2025 draft pick. However, you lose protections on your 2026 and 2028 draft. We know this. So the question needs to be asked, you guys. With this season going the way it is, with the fact that even though the Miami Heat are 10th seed, you guys are still 5.5 games above Toronto for the 11th seed. Toronto just keeps losing also. So it looks like the Heat are probably going to be stuck around the 9th or 10th seed going into the play-in tournament. So the question does need to be asked. What are immediate changes that this Miami Heat team can make to go back to being a contender? Because when you look at this roster, you guys, and I'll be honest, I mean, after the Jimmy Butler trade, I was trying to look at the positive. I'm here thinking, man, with Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Andrew Wiggins, Kel'el Ware, Davion Mitchell starting, Duncan Robinson, Nikola Jovic, Jaime Jaquez, Terry Rozier, Kyle Anderson, Pelle Larson, Haywood Highsmith, this team can get top 6. Wrong. They're not that team. Bam Adebayo has not been playing his all-star form ever since moving to the power forward position. It's because he's back at center. Bam is playing the center position while Jaime Jaquez is starting at the power forward. And we are again getting these 12.7 rebound games from Bam. I think that's bad coaching, putting Bam as the starting center. We've seen Bam evolve when Kel'el Ware is starting. Now Kel'el Ware is coming off the bench. Spo just got this rotation all jacked up. I don't know if the Heat are intentionally tanking. I don't know, but it kind of seems that way when you think about it. It kind of seems that way when you look at some of these games that the Heat are playing? I don't know. However, I'm going to bring back this question again, you guys. Is Kevin Durant the potential saving grace for this Miami Heat team? And look, I know I've talked about Kevin Durant before, but I'm going to keep talking about him, you guys, because I think potentially Kevin Durant can be the answer. And before people get in the comments and say, Ernest, you're crazy. He's 37 years old. He's making a huge amount of money, over $50 million next season. Why the hell would you trade for Kevin Durant? Well, a few reasons. First and foremost, you can look at this as a rental. It was reported by both Shams Charania and Brian Windhorst that the marriage is over between Kevin Durant and the Phoenix Suns. They're not even a play-in team at this point. Kevin Durant, it looks so unhappy with Phoenix. And that was because they put Kevin Durant's name on the trading block right before the trade deadline. We know this story, but I'll give you a little reminder. The Miami Heat, the Phoenix Suns, and the Golden State Warriors were talking about a potential 3-team trade that would land Kevin Durant in the Golden State Warriors and Jimmy Butler in the Phoenix Suns. Once Kevin Durant caught whiff of this, he declined the trade. Now, it's not like he had that power, but Golden State respected his wishes, not trading for him. So that's where the Miami Heat and Golden State just figured it out together and made the trade. But ever since that happened, you guys, there's been a bitter taste in Kevin Durant's mouth about the Phoenix Suns. And it was reported that both sides are done with this. Phoenix will look to trade Kevin Durant this offseason. Kevin Durant will be in the final year of his contract. He's actually 36 now. He'll be turning 37 next year. And for those people that are going to say Kevin Durant is too old or too washed, look at these numbers. 56 games he's played so far this season. He's been very durable at 36, averaging 26.4 points a game, 52.6% from the field, 41.6% from the three-point line, 83% from the free throw line, averaging 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.3 steals a game. If I were to say these numbers for a 29, 30-year-old, everybody would be going crazy saying to get Kevin Durant. But I understand the main reason why people are not going to want to go after Kevin Durant, or Heat fans are not going to want Kevin Durant on this team, is because of two things. His age, he's 36, he'll be 37 in September, but also the amount of money that he makes. So what's the Miami Heat going to have to give up in order to get Kevin Durant? Now look, during the trade deadline, there was an offer between Miami and Phoenix. As we know, Golden State, Phoenix, and Miami were trying to do a 3-team trade. The idea was to get Kevin Durant in Golden State, Jimmy Butler to Phoenix, and pretty much a package for the Miami Heat so we can get Jimmy out of there. But the moment that Kevin Durant caught whiff of that, he declined the trade. So there was an offer after that when Kevin Durant didn't want to go to Phoenix between Phoenix and Miami, where Phoenix basically stated that if you want Kevin Durant, we're going to want Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic, Kel'el Ware, maybe like an Andrew Wiggins for cap space, multiple first-round draft picks. This was reported by Dan Le Batard. This isn't speculation. Le Batard reported that. So Miami Heat said no. But in reality, you guys, the Heat would have had to do something like that because the amount of money that Kevin Durant is making. When we get to the offseason, that's where there's more flexibility. That's where certain players' numbers get off the books, where they become free agents. And teams that are second apron teams can kind of knock down to the first apron. So now you have a little bit more flexibility when it comes to doing trades. So now, this would put the Miami Heat in a position where they wouldn't pretty much have to give up the world for Kevin Durant. And I know people are going to say, well, Ernest, why the hell would you want a 36-year-old Kevin Durant who'll be 37 by next year when you didn't want to give a 35-year-old Jimmy Butler a maximum extension? Here's why. I've explained this before, but I'll explain it again. Jimmy Butler and Kevin Durant's games are very different. Jimmy Butler's game is predicated on getting to the paint, hitting bodies, finishing at the rim, and getting an and one. As we've seen with players, after 35, the game drops big time. You saw it with guys like Dwayne Wade. You saw it with Russell Westbrook. You're seeing it with a lot of these players. Father Time is undefeated, y'all. But Kevin Durant's game is different. Yes, he can get to the paint. Yes, he can hit contact. Yes, he can get the and one. But one thing that Kevin Durant does is his shooting. his three-point shooting, his mid-range game. That's elite. And that's the reason why Kevin Durant will be able to play later on into his 30s as long as he keeps his body right and there's no injuries. And if you ask me, you guys, trading for a 37-year-old Kevin Durant who's on a one-year contract as a rental, I think could be the saving grace. Because one thing about this team, you guys, that I continuously say, we need a closer. You saw it in the game yesterday against New York. You've seen it so many times where the Heat have a double-digit lead. You're going into halftime. They might be leading, but you know what's going to happen in the second half. The Heat are going to blow it. If they have a guy like Kevin Durant in the fourth quarter where they can give the ball to and say, win us this game, you're going to be winning a lot of these games that you've been losing. Now, the question is, what do you give up for a Kevin Durant? Now, look, guys, I'm right there with y'all. There's no way I'm going to give up Jaime, Nikola Jovic, Kel'el Ware, multiple first-round draft picks. It just ain't happening. If that's the case, just keep this team the way it is next year, and let's go on the 2026 free agency. Because we know 2026 is going to be huge. That's where Andrew Wiggins will have his player option that he'll most likely opt out of. Rozier and Duncan Robinson's contract will be off the books, so that he could potentially have over $80 million in cap space. But we're not talking about the 2026 offseason. We're talking about this offseason. If you trade for Kevin Durant, whose contract will expire in 2026, it will give you the same amount of flexibility. It will give you a better chance to compete in the Eastern Conference for 2025. And then after that, see what happens. But I don't want to go through this same year of this crap, especially if the Miami Heat don't make the playoffs. Because if you don't make the playoffs, yeah, you keep your first round pick this year, but your 2026 pick goes unprotected to OKC. And if the Heat don't make any moves and brings this same team back that's lost 8 straight, imagine if they're a bottom level team next year and we don't keep our pick. That's really gonna be bad. So if you're able to go after a Kevin Durant for a one-year rental, barring an extension, what can you give up? Well, my boy AM Hoops actually talked about did a video on the Miami Heat last week, and he brought up a very interesting trade package, which I think is very doable. It would be a 3-team trade surrounding the Miami Heat, Phoenix Suns, and pick a third team. I don't give a shit. Doesn't matter. But the Miami Heat would only need to send Andrew Wiggins, Jaime Jaquez Jr., and a future first-round draft pick. Doesn't have to be the 2025 pick. Might be, might not be, depending when you do the trade. But you can send your 2030 first-round draft pick to Phoenix. And in return, the Miami Heat will get Kevin Durant, and then the third team would get Duncan Robinson's contract. Now, for those people saying, who the hell would want Duncan Robinson? A lot of teams next year. Duncan Robinson is set to make over $19 million, close to $20 million next season. But half of that is guaranteed. So if a team trades for Duncan Robinson, especially with this new NBA collective bargaining agreement, they can cut him and not have to pay his full salary. That's huge. Now, if that is the proposed trade, I'm all for it. Does it suck losing Jaime Jaquez? Yes. Does it suck losing a future first-round draft pick? Yes. But you are seeing this team constructed after the Jimmy Butler trade 4-14 since losing Jimmy. Or 4-15 actually with last night's loss. That's pathetic. While Jimmy Butler over there with Golden State has gone 14-3. You need someone next season to help you win. And I know I've mentioned this before, you guys, but I'm going to keep talking about it. I think Kevin Durant's the answer. Not just because of how great he's played this year, not just because I feel that he can continue this type of play, but it's because it's a one-year rental, guys. It doesn't get in the way of the plan. The plan is to open up as much cap space as we can for 2026 and to see where we can go from there. De'Aaron Fox may be a free agent. Luka Doncic may be a free agent. There's going to be players that are going to be available then. I think the Heat getting Kevin Durant just for 1 year could be the answer. So Heat Nation, let me ask you guys. If we have to give up Andrew Wiggins, Jaime Jaquez, and a future first-round draft pick only for Kevin Durant, would you do it? Or do you think no? No matter what, don't bring Kevin Durant. Go with the same team. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe as we push for 6,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for the continued support. And until next time, your boy Ernest out. And that is enough said.